Hi there, everyone. My name's Wayne. I'm the Armchair Red. Welcome to my channel. So, on the first ever segment of You'll Never Talk Alone, I'd like to address the topic of Jurgen Klopp leaving Liverpool Football Club at the end of the season. Now, I know you might say that, man, this topic's been spoken to death the last few weeks, but I think it's well worth going back to it now that we've had an opportunity to digest the information. We've had an opportunity to see the team play on a few occasions since the announcement. So, what I'd like to chat about today is what does this mean for Liverpool as a club? What does this mean for the Premier League and football as a whole? And then also, who takes over from Jurgen Klopp next season? So, let's just go back. I'd like to start by going back to that fateful Friday when we received the news. And it was weird because I didn't really know how to feel. Firstly, I thought it was a joke until I went onto some of the websites and found out that it was in fact true. And when I found that out, it gave me a weird feeling inside. It was almost akin to grievance, almost losing a member of the family, because I think if you've, or in my case, if you've supported Liverpool for as long as I have, you almost feel part of a family when you support that club. And Jurgen Klopp is part of that family. We feel part of that family. So when he announced he was going to leave, I'm not ashamed to say it almost brought a tear to my eye. But it is what it is. I think Jurgen knows what the right thing for him to do is. So good luck to him. But what does this mean for the club? So, firstly, if Jurgen was going to leave, I thought he would have left the end of last season. Liverpool didn't have a great season. There were a lot of critics out there saying it was probably time for him to step down. He'd served his time. My personal opinion is Jurgen has more than enough credit in the bank that he would never be asked to leave. It would have to be a decision he would have to make himself. And he's made that decision now. And I think it's going to be a massive loss for Liverpool, both from a community point of view, from a club point of view, and from a supporter point of view, because he is synonymous with Liverpool Football Club. I think having taken over in that role, he's ingrained himself in the community. He's ingrained himself in the hearts of the supporters. And when people think of Liverpool Football Club, they think of Jurgen Klopp. So it's going to be a massive loss, a truly, truly massive loss. In terms of the club itself, he's a father figure for a lot of the young players. I mean, I think Liverpool are one of the clubs that do a remarkable job in terms of bringing youth through the academies and introducing youth into the first team. I hope that continues when the new manager's there, because I think Jurgen Klopp has been incredible in terms of doing that. And then in terms of the Premier League as a whole, I think not having Jurgen Klopp in the Premier League is not good for the Premier League. He's a true character. I think the rivalry he has with Pep is something that will go down in the ages in terms of Premier League history. And I think Pep said himself, not having Jurgen Klopp around to push him and to push the team like they have the last few years, I think it's going to take a little bit out of Man City as well, because I think the two clubs have pushed each other to levels where some of it hasn't been seen before the last few seasons. So the Premier League is going to be poorer without Jurgen Klopp in it. And in terms of the game itself, football as a whole, I truly feel that the lifeblood of the beautiful game has a little bit of Jurgen Klopp in it. And to not have Jurgen Klopp in football for the foreseeable future is not good for the game. You need those characters. You need those people there with the passion and the magnetic personality and the larger-than-life characters that actually make football enjoyable and intriguing and interesting. And to not have him part of football, I think, is sad. It truly is sad, not just for Liverpool, not just for the Premier League, but I think for football as a whole. Um, I also think, from a club point of view, it'll be interesting. There's been talk of players having second thoughts now about whether they want to renew contracts, whether they want to hang around. I mean, I'm of the opinion that many players joined the club because of Jurgen Klopp. He was a massive attraction. Many players wanted to play under him purely because of the type of manager and the type of person he was. Um, so, so that's a massive void, an absolutely massive void that will need to be filled. Um, but it's sad. It was a sad day. It's a sad time. But if I have a look at the way the teams responded, I think taking the Arsenal game out of it, I just think as a Liverpool team, it was just a bad day at the office. But if you look at the games we've had at Anfield, I mean, that is almost like last stand material we've been seeing. The crowd's been incredible. The players have shown 150% on the field. I mean, that game against Chelsea, I don't think I've seen Liverpool play like that in many a year. Um, so I think the last few games that we have at Anfield, and we have the pleasure of having Klopp in the dugout, I think are going to be truly remarkable for Klopp's. It's basically Klopp's last dance with us, I would imagine. Um, but yeah, I'm hoping it takes us on to a title this season. Um, I don't think there's any more motivation you can really have, um, and wanting to send him off on a high that I truly think he deserves. Um, if I look at some of the people wanting to step into his role, so firstly, let me start off by saying nobody replaces Klopp. No matter who you bring into the club, they are not replacing Klopp. They are assuming his position in the club with the intent of building a legacy of their own, because Jurgen Klopp's legacy won't be matched. I just want to put that out there. There's been a few names thrown around. I'm going to touch on a few of them, whether I think they will work or whether they won't work. Let me start off with Big Ange at Spurs. I think if you look at the character that he is, I think he could be a good fit for Liverpool. If I look at the job that he's done at Spurs, there's a definite game plan there. There's a definite style to the way they play. I think what he's managed to achieve, not having Harry Kane around, I think is admirable. But it's still very early. He's still imprinting his blueprint onto that Spurs team. I think he could do a good job at Liverpool. The only question I'd have in the back of my mind is, if he's willing to walk out of Spurs as early in his career, what would stop him from doing it at Liverpool? That would be the only question I would ask in the back of my mind. If we look at someone like Roberto De Zerbi at Brighton, I like Roberto De Zerbi. I think his team plays an incredible style, or a very attacking style of football, which is what we need. I think the pressing game is there from his team. The only question I would have is, excuse me, is should we not potentially take a learning from Graham Potter in a similar position? Graham Potter had an amazing team at Brighton. They were playing very good football. But as soon as you take Graham Potter out of Brighton and you put him into Chelsea, and he's exposed to different pressures and different expectations, he was exposed. And as good a manager as I think he is, I mean, he's going to go down in Chelsea as probably one of their worst managers in history. Could we not potentially, as Liverpool, be falling into a similar trap with Roberto De Zerbi? I mean, obviously, the only way to tell would be to give him the opportunity. So it was just a word of caution over there. I think he's a good manager, but there are lessons that can be learned from previous moves out of Brighton. Steven Gerrard, if it was a year ago or 18 months ago, I would say yes. Steven Gerrard would be probably the perfect fit. I mean, he's a cultural icon at Liverpool. He is Mr. Liverpool. But if I have a look at what Unai Emery, for example, has done at Aston Villa with almost the same team that Steven Gerrard had and was failing with, is he the right man for the job? I also question his move to the Saudi Pro League. Are you truly developing yourself as a manager by going to a league like that? I could understand his time in Scotland. I think there's merit and value to managing Rangers over there, but I don't believe there's any merit or value managing in the Saudi Pro League at the moment. You cannot develop yourself in a league like that. So at this point in time, for Steven Gerrard, I'd probably say no. Which leaves one more name that I'd like to discuss, Xabi Alonso. From a pedigree point of view, a Liverpool pedigree, I'd say yes. I mean, he was at the club for many years. We won the Champions League with him in the team. I know he's liked by the supporters. He was a very popular figure at Liverpool. He's doing a great job in the Bundesliga at the moment with Bayer Leverkusen. The question you need to ask yourself again is, this is his first big role. Yes, he's shooting the lights out for the resources he probably has available to him, taking on the likes of Bayern Munich. But this would be a head versus heart decision, I would imagine, because your heart would tell you, yes, Xabi Alonso is the right man for the role. But your head probably tells you, is it maybe a year or two too soon? Probably. But then you've got to sit back and look, what other options are there out there? Are we prepared to give a new manager time to bring his style into the team, to embed himself in the community, embed himself into the club, win the supporters' hearts? I think he deserves time to be able to do that, because you're going to be inheriting a team that there is massive potential. I mean, Jurgen Klopp, people say Jurgen Klopp was busy with a midfield rebuild this season, and he's probably a season or a season ahead of where he should be at the moment. By rights, we shouldn't be challenging for the league this year. You know, with the likes of midfielders we lost last year, Henderson, Fabinho, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Naby Keita, and the new players that have been brought in, you would have expected a time of adjustment, you know, getting to know each other. But the fact that, you know, as of today, we're still top of the league, I think we probably a season ahead of where we should be when it comes to the midfield. But like I said, people talk about the midfield rebuild, but what we mustn't forget is Klopp is actually overseen and is busy overseeing 3 rebuilds. He's rebuilt the forward line after Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane left. Probably one of the most fearsome threesomes the Premier League has ever seen. You know, Luis Diaz is coming to the mix. Darwin Núñez is coming to the mix. Jota was there. Cody Gakpo is coming to that mix. So we were all fearing what's going to happen to Liverpool when that front 3 breaks up. But, you know, the potential is there. Yes, Darwin Núñez is probably getting more wood at the moment than a porn star, but the potential is there. He's young. Then we talk about the midfield. Curtis Jones, brand new player. I mean, I think he's a brand new player this season. And it's a bonus for Liverpool in terms of the player we've had in previous seasons. I mean, he's absolutely dominating games in terms of some of the games that he plays. Dominic Szoboszlai, I think, is going to be an absolute legend. McAllister's growing into the role that he's busy playing at the moment. I still feel he should be playing further forward, but, you know, in his current holding role at the moment, I think he's doing a great job. Endo, there was a lot of questions asked about the transfer from Stuttgart, and I think he's slowly grown into his role as well. I think probably going to the Asian Cup was the wrong time for him to go, because he had just started feeling his feet in that role. But if you look at that brand new midfield, basically, and Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, that midfield's doing things, and they're probably doing things a year too early. And I also think one aspect of rebuild that people are not thinking about is, at the same time, under the radar, Jurgen Klopp is busy rebuilding his back line as well. You look at the likes of Connor Bradley that's coming through now. I mean, he's trend 2.0 at the moment. from practically nowhere. We all knew about him, but until you put on the big stage like he has now, and he's absolutely blown some of the teams away. I think it's 2 man of the match performances in his last 3 games. I think is incredible. You look at Konate coming to his own at the back now. You know, he signed on as a very raw centre half, and I think he's probably been our best defender this season. I mean, I think he's outshone Virgil, and that's saying something. And then we mustn't forget players like Jarrell Quansah. I mean, no one raises an eyebrow now when you see his name on the starting sheet. And that is Liverpool, and that is Klopp blooding players and thinking for the future and rebuilding his backline. Virgil's already said he's not 100% sure whether he's still going to be around in the rebuild. But you think over there, you know, you've got a ready-made back four already. Trent can move into midfield. Connor Bradley can stay out on the right. You've got Konate and Quansah in the middle. Andy Robertson, I think, still going to be around for a while. And if he's not, I think Tsimikas is an able backup to him. So Jurgen Klopp has actually gone through 3 rebuilds. A lot of people are only giving him credit for the midfield rebuild that he's done now. But he's done 3 rebuilds, and I can imagine what that must take out of you as a person, what that must take out of you as a manager. I also think the world of management of football teams is a lot different to what it was a few years ago. The fact that VAR is around now, the fact that VAR is not being managed correctly and is ultimately costing teams results must be very stressful for managers as well, because stuff that should be working in the background, you know, for VAR to work correctly, we shouldn't be noticing VAR. You know, we should just be making the right decisions and getting on with the games. But when it starts becoming a circus like it is now, I'm sure it takes its toll on the managers as well. I also think, you know, the world of social media is much bigger now in football than it was a few seasons ago. I mean, Jurgen Klopp himself mentioned the other day that I think he does almost 30 interviews a week. I mean, that must take it out of eventually. The same questions. I mean, I looked at that interview after the Arsenal game, and I know it wasn't a great game, but Klopp looked a bit different in those interviews. His press conference, when he announced his departure, he looked a bit different in that. He wasn't the Jurgen Klopp of old. You could see a little piece of him had been taken out. And I just think, instead of running your course like maybe Arsene Wenger did at Arsenal, where eventually the supporters are calling for your head, rather do it the way Alex Ferguson did it. You know, quit while you're ahead. You know, granted, he was at Man United for many seasons, and no one will ever surpass the tenure that he had at Man United with any other club in the Premier League. But quit while you're ahead. I think the difference in this case is when Alex Ferguson left Man United, he was leaving an aging team. The Carricks, the Scholes of the world. There were a lot of players the wrong side of 30. Whereas whoever comes in and assumes the managerial role next year at Liverpool is going to be taking over a relatively young team. Yes, they're a bit inexperienced in some positions, but he's taking over a team that, in my view, still hasn't fully reached its potential. And I think there's an opportunity for that new manager to come in and actually create a legacy of their own. There's not a lot of dead wood they need to move out of the club. There's a lot of young players coming through. There's a lot of players hungry and willing to run themselves into the ground for the club. It's actually a new manager's dream when you think about it. So, yes, a very interesting time for us at the moment as Liverpool supporters. I think time will tell who comes into the role, but there's 2 things I'd like to leave this segment on, and there's 2 things that Liverpool said. Not Liverpool. That Jurgen Klopp said in his first ever Liverpool press conference to the press and to the supporters themselves. And the first thing he said was he wants to turn doubters into believers. And being a Liverpool supporter, Jurgen, you've achieved what you intended to achieve. I think the expectation around the club now, from where you started to where we are now, we are at the elite table of football, not just in England, but in the world. I doff my cap off to you. I think you've done an amazing job there. And the second thing he said, which I think relates very much to the conversation we're having today, is he mentioned it's not important what people think of you when you join a club. It's important what people think of you when you leave a club. And he came in with a lot of fanfare. It was I'm the normal one speech. You know, everyone tends to remember the press conference for that. But I think that quote from him, I think, is symbolic to the period we're going through now as supporters, because Jurgen, the man you're leaving as from Liverpool Football Club, is the man that will be remembered. And if there's not a statue for you outside Anfield in the coming years, I think some strong-worded letters need to be written. But you've delivered on those two promises. And as a Liverpool supporter, I thank you for that. As a Premier League supporter, I thank you for what you've brought to the Premier League over the years. And as a football supporter as a whole, Jurgen, thank you for being part of the game, because the game is going to be poorer for you not being in it. Guys, that's my view on things at the moment. If you agree with anything I've said, if you'd like to leave some comments, please leave a few comments. I'd happily get back to you. I think this is a very good debate for us to be having as a football community, but also as the armchair community as a whole. And let's see where this last dance takes us, because it could be a fairy tale ending for Jurgen Klopp, and I hope it is. Guys, thanks for your time today. Please remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you like what you've heard. Like I said, I'm on a journey on this channel, and your support will be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Armchair Red, out.